Welcome to Censored. This reading is from Censored number 112, and the title is Toward Understanding by William J. Eisenman, PhD. In recent months, we've heard a lot about communism, socialism, Marxism, capitalism, and free market. Tea Party members called President Obama a Marxist, a communist, a socialist, a fascist. It was quite clear that those using these terms in the context that they did were ignorant of the meanings of these terms. We will try to shed some light on these issues and perhaps educate Tea Party members that are still educable. We should also like to state that our elected representatives should at least know the difference between the Declaration of Independence and the U.S. Constitution. If they don't, they should stop spewing out their silly opinions and ignorant rhetoric. To help these misguided people, here are some definitions to ponder. Communism is a theory of social organization that is based on the holding of property in common. Actual ownership is by the community as a whole or the state. The perverted forms of communism are systems of social organization in which all economic activity is controlled by a totalitarian state dominated by a single and self-perpetuating political party or a dictator. Socialism is a system of social organization that advocates the ownership and control of industry, and capital and land is owned by the community as a whole. In Marxist theory, socialism is the stage following capitalism in the transition of society to communism. Capitalism is an economic system in which investment in and ownership of the means of production, distribution, and exchange of wealth is made and maintained chiefly by private individuals or corporations. Free market should be self-explanatory, but it is not. To huge corporations, the free market means for them a monopoly in their particular area. Regulation-free markets lead to honesty-free markets, as we have recently learned with our financial meltdown. Fascism is a totalitarian governmental system led by a dictator that emphasizes an aggressive nationalism and often a racism. Fascism is a political movement like that of Mussolini in Italy between 1922 and 1943. Corporatism. Fascism occurs on the right of the political spectrum. Socialism, communism, and Marxism arise on the leftist side of the political spectrum. This area is occupied by what we would term liberals, and at this time in history, Democrats. Fascism spews forth from the right side of the political spectrum, the area occupied by right-wingers, conservatives, and at this time in history, Republicans. Totalitarian despots can appear on both sides of the political spectrum. In China today, there is a fascist government calling itself communist, which is gung-ho immersed in capitalism. China is a hybrid. In America, we too have a hybrid form of governmental system. touches of socialism and capitalism. The Tea Party members who refer to President Obama as a Marxist, communist, or socialist are obviously wrong. And since he's a Democrat, he couldn't be a fascist. The United States Senate, House of Representatives, and the President are all bought by a small but powerful cabal of corporations, the wealthy and the elites of our country. Money controls everything and everybody. Our government no longer works in the interest of we the people. Conservatives believe we elect leaders, not servants. Democrats believe they are elected to bring everyone together for a group hug. Both, in actuality, believe they should legislate in the service of the status quo. And needed legislation never sees the light of day or becomes so watered down as to be useless. Much of the time, needed legislation becomes too right-wing in order to please Republicans. An example would be President Clinton's welfare bill. Right now, we need to ask, where is Glass-Steagall? There was a time in this country when $200 billion could have ended poverty. It was not done. And if Republicans were truly Christians, it would have been done. In November 2008, the majority of Americans voted for change. We want to change the way Washington works. We want Washington to work for us, the general welfare, not the wealthy few and the big corporations. We're not fond of a jobless recovery, crooks on Wall Street, oil dependency, corporate welfare, and corporate bought elections. But where is the change? The real change, not the cosmetic change that we've seen so far. There are 11,195 corporate lobbyists seeking to prostitute our representatives. Last year, lobbyists spent $2.95 billion corrupting our representatives. This industry is now a permanent part of our country's power structure. This industry even has its own lobbying firm, the American League of Lobbyists, which works to stop all legislative, regulatory, and ethical restrictions on what lobbyists can do. Influence peddling. Also, 300 former members of Congress now work for lobbying firms. They work on K Street. In 2004, 93 major corporations spent $283 million on lobbyists to get a special tax break through Congress that saved these corporations from having to pay $62.5 billion in taxes. Hey, Tea Party people, you want to know why the country's broke? It's because for the last 30 years, wealthy Americans and corporations haven't been paying their share of taxes. Wall Street bankers crashed our economy and took taxpayers for a $13 trillion bailout. They then went back to their same old tricks, casino speculation. They rewarded their evilness with huge bonuses. Instead of being tarred and feathered, losing their citizenship, they profited. Through all of this, we got misguided Tea Party folk who tried to deflect our anger at those responsible, Wall Street and big corporations, to our emasculated government. We heard nothing substantial about breaking up the too-big-to-fail banks or punishment of any kind. It's been 2 years since the banksters crashed our economy, and only now is Congress focusing on financial reform, which will end up not solving the problems. Why? because Jamie Dimon of JP Morgan Chase is a top contributor to President Obama and might be Obama's choice for the next Treasury Secretary. Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan Chase, and Citigroup have over 145 lobbyists working on their behalf to prevent any meaningful reform. The banking industry lobbyists, quote, own the place, unquote. How many lobbyists do we have in Congress? Today, corporations are not just too powerful. Today corporations are just too powerful. In government, there is just no insight, understanding as to the damage that policies in favor of corporations and the wealthy are doing to 80% of Americans. Redistributing money and power to the already well-off is increasing the burdens on the rest of us. This maldistribution of wealth and power has now become a cancer eating away at our society. Special interest money has destroyed any semblance of democracy that we may have shared. We are no longer a self-governing people. Money is indeed the roots of all evil, but we, the people, are being prevented from real change, from curing the disease. About 45% of households in 2010 will owe no federal income taxes. 50% of those don't make enough to pay taxes, while the other 50% are middle and lower income households who will take advantage of tax credits such as the Earned Income Tax Credit, the American Opportunity and Lifetime Learning, and the Savers Credits. But these people pay other taxes: Social Security and Medicare taxes, sales taxes, property taxes, gasoline taxes, cigarettes and alcohol taxes. About 75% of Americans will pay some form of federal tax in 2010. Even 50% of those earning $10,000 or under will pay some federal tax. Those making over $1 million will pay 27% to the government. The average taxpayer pays 18%. When we factor in relativity, this does not seem at all fair in an economic or a moral sense. Taking away a $270,000 from $1 million leaves $730,000, while taking away $1,800 from $10,000 leaves $8,200. Hardly enough to live on. Taxes claim 27% of this country's GDP. Other countries pay more in taxes, but they get more for what they pay. In fact, citizens of the United States pay less taxes overall than those in other wealthy countries, but we waste taxes on a bloated military, two costly wars, and welfare for the rich and corporations. Most Americans are not overtaxed. They are underpaid. Compared to the rest of the world, we have many shortcomings in our tax system. As stated previously, we get very little for our taxes. European taxes allow for a generous support system for families and individuals, for which Americans have to pay out of pocket. Europeans have quality health care, costing 1/2 of what Americans pay. Europeans also get affordable child care, a decent retirement pension, free university education, job training, paid sick leave, paid parental leave, generous vacation time, affordable housing, senior care, and mass transportation. Conservative Republicans in the United States denigrate all of this. They balk at any form of generosity being shown to those who are not elites. Also, bear in mind that Social Security costs the government absolutely nothing. The money in the Social Security system is there as a result of payroll taxes. This money is invested in treasuries. The United States owes this money to the Social Security system, to us. A stealth commission has been set up under Obama to try to get this money for Wall Street. And they will try to convince you that Social Security is a drain on the budget in order to cut benefits. Don't you dare believe it. We experienced a financial meltdown, a hurricane named Katrina, and now a massive oil spill in the Gulf of Mexico. How did we get here? We got here as a result of people not doing their jobs, and because elected representatives gave certain industries the legal right to do whatever the hell they wanted to, without any meaningful oversight. Oh, the free market would take care of all of that. Well, the free market works, as stated previously, in favor of the big guys. It all came to a head with Ronald Reagan's "government is the problem" mantra. Reagan sought no government regulation or oversight of business. Reagan began a dismantling of government, devolution. Regulations were removed from industry, and government agencies were staffed with ideologues and business-friendly political cronies. By filling important government positions with incompetence, it was a foregone conclusion that government would not work. The three presidents after Reagan followed in his footsteps. Clinton signed into law the Gramm-Leach-Bliley Act in 1999, the Financial Services Modernization Act, which allowed commercial, investment banks, securities firms, and insurance companies to consolidate. The act also repealed much of the 1933 Glass-Steagall Act, which was written to prevent financial meltdowns like occurred in 2008. Bright minds put these laws into place to avoid meltdowns. But dumb minds today vilified these protective laws as socialistic, communist, un-American, and an insult to the free market, our present form of capitalism. The lobbyists for big business bribed our dumb minds of today and got their way. The illegitimate president, George W. Bush, was the worst of the lot. His administration filled every governmental agency position with incompetent cronies, those who would obstruct and not do the job in a normal government manner. Some blatant examples were FEMA, the Securities and Exchange Commission, the Attorney General's Office, and the Department of Labor. These were evil doings. Big is not always better. Too big to fail is too big to exist. Evidence shows that very large financial companies are less efficient than smaller financial companies. Hirees should not be sabotagers. They should know how to do the job in the interest of we, the people, the government. They work for us and not some mythical ideology. Their job is to promote the general welfare. False patriotism and Christianity aside, America is not really a beacon on the hill. It's hardly a lantern on a molehill. The end.